do that, what I'm going to do is share some ideas which you already know. So kind of, reminding or, revisiting them or re-looking at them, some of the issues, some of the ideas that we remember always, but some of the ideas we know, but we never practice, or we don't see it from that sense, in a sense, right? So that is kind of my job. My job is not kind of teach something. There's nothing. Leadership cannot be taught. That's a fundamental flaw that we always try to engage. It's not. Yes, certain things we can inculcate. So you can only teach your students to inculcate certain habits and hobbies, certain qualities, so that you become a better leader. But we already have such qualities, so that we just have to kind of refresh them. And that's another reason why I was kind of happy to engage with you guys, on the idea of leadership and the mentorship. This is about guidance and mentorship, and also. But I thought, I wanted to focus more on leadership. Leadership is very tricky business, in a sense. It's very abstract. Nobody knows what is a leader. Who is a leader? Is a leader who's accepted by everybody, or who's liked by everybody, or who's who's adored by everybody, or who's devoted by everybody. This kind of stuff, that we always keep hearing about leadership and all. Of course, the biggest myth is that leader is somebody who always would satisfy everybody. Absolutely not. That's something that we should always remember, that leader's business is not to impress everybody. Leaders of course, basic job is to influence others for a positive change. But should always remember that there are people, right? Everybody has their own mindset. Everybody has their own ideas. They have their own perception. They have their own attitudes. So if you are not here, to kind of, it's like, friend to everybody is friend to none. Leadership is not going to work like that. You just go and ask everybody, request everybody that, this is how we do, this is how we do. Yes, you have to coordinate, you have to do a lot of compromises, you have to do a lot of motivation stuff, you need to pack people and take along with you. A lot of things are there, but here we are not in the business of kind of impressing everybody and requesting everybody to follow your path. You make sure your acts, your deeds will make sure that people follow you. Somebody has raised their hands. Does it mean somebody has a question? What does it mean? Or should I go ahead?
Sir, kindly proceed. We will take question answers towards the end of the session.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, one of the participants, has raised the hand. So thought, yeah. So probably I'll just, get into the core, the ideas that I'm going to share with you. Yeah. So the leadership, again, when it comes to definition itself, is a very problematic definition, right? They don't know how to define leadership, because there is no the definition for leadership. It's all about our perception. How do we perceive a leader? A leader can be anybody. Father can be leader, a mother can be leader, your teacher can be leader, your student can be leader. Sometimes they can teach us, they can influence us, right? So it's very difficult to define. It's a very subjective one. But however, for our own convenience sake, we'll make it a very lucid definition. More or less, we accept that leadership is something that is an ability to influence others with or without authority. With authority or without authority, you don't have to show your authority. Sometimes you show the authority because you are a leader. So there, essentially, the word influence matters. How do you influence people with your words, with your ideas, so that people follow you back? So you influence, and then there is a communication, right? There is a communication established between you and your followers. You talk to them, and they listen to you, and they get influenced, and they follow your idea, they follow your path. That's a kind of very lucid way of defining the leadership or the leader. So all the successful, leaders or leadership skills, or the people who try to influence others with their skills are supposed to have three fundamental aspects in them. The first and foremost, which is very, very important, is interpersonal communications, which is also kind of communication skills. In general, we talk about the communication skills are very, very important. The second one is conflict management. How do you manage the conflicts when the conflicts arise? When I'm talking about the conflict management, when I'm talking about communication, it's not just about being in a college environment or university environment or being in a team environment. It's not that. It could be any place. It could be a family, it could be in your apartment society, or it could be the university, it could be in a political environment. It could be you must be handling thousands, you must be handling lakhs of people, you must be handling crores of people, right? You always see the politicians, when they handle people, they not only address the gatherings of lakhs of people, but also they address to the crores of people. When the politicians speak, they speak and they influence people. And we also tend to underrate some way. I'm not here to offend anybody, but we tend to underrate the politicians as leaders. But I certainly will not take that huge risk of underrating them. Politicians are one of the most effective communicators in the communicative world. And they are successful communicators. In fact, political leaders become political leaders because they have effective communication skills. Yeah, the variance will be there. Somebody is good at it, somebody is very bad at it, somebody is, can just manage it. That's a different matter altogether. But communication is not about speaking, right? You all know, you are all seasoned people. I'm not here to talk about what is communication. But however, please, don't take me in otherwise. Politicians or political class are very, very efficient people. Meticulous people, meritorious people in their own right when it comes to leadership qualities. So do not underestimate the political leaders, politicians. You may accuse them of for 100 things, but not for leadership skills. Some leadership they have. It may go in the negative direction or positive direction. That's a different matter altogether. But they have certain skills. When somebody is able to influence the masses, he is a leader. That is a political leader, corporate leader, or a family member, or anybody else. So one must have good interpersonal communications, which again I will go into it a little later. Conflict management, whether you are able to manage the conflict efficiently, and the third one is problem solving, whether you are able to solve the problems efficiently when certain problems arise in your setting. So interpersonal communication is a very important aspect when it comes to influencing others. When you want to kind of have a capability or a capacity to influence others, one must have interpersonal communication skills, and not only interpersonal skills where what do I say? The leadership and interpersonal skills go in hand. When you talk about leadership and interpersonal skills, there are a couple of things that come to our mind immediately. What are the things that actually make up these interpersonal skills? What is that that is going to influence? See, one thing I'm not going to do is talk about language. How language is going to play a very important role. Of course, language is going to play a very important role. I'm not really here. This is not a kind of language class. How grammar is going to make important role, or intonation is going to make important role, body language is going to make important role in leadership. I'm talking about more of a personality. How do we present ourselves to the people, right? So the communication skills, of course, we should have. And one more myth I want to kind of remind you guys. Of course, you guys know better. One more myth is that you should be a very good communicator. To become a good leader, you should become a good communicator. No doubt about it. There's no other shortcut. But there is another myth that you should have a good language skills. You should have a good what do I say, fluency. Either say for example, if you are a politician in North India, probably should have a good oratory skills in Hindi. If you are like politician in your own region, you should have good language skills to command people. But however, that's also kind of myth. The fluency and all, it should be there. It's a good advantage. But The language skills are going to matter a lot. But however, how are you going to use those language skills to influence others are something that's very, very important. There are people who speak very well or not very good leaders. There's people, in fact, there are political leaders, corporate leaders who are not really good at their language. Understand? No. But they know how to communicate. They know how to communicate their ideas. They become fantastic leaders. If you look at there is a chief minister who has been winning 4 times. 4 times chief minister is continuously winning 4 times continuously, and the chief minister doesn't even speak his mother tongue. Doesn't speak his mother tongue. He communicates to the people in mother tongue, speaking, writing it in English, and speak to the people. Just imagine the kind of leadership skills that he has. He is none other than Mr. Navin Patnaik of Odisha. Fantastic leadership skills, right? He doesn't know Odia. He can't speak. He's born and brought up in London, and he writes Odia in English and speaks to the people, and he's been winning for various reasons. We are not really getting into what all this stuff. But I'm just talking about language skills. There's a myth that if you have a beautiful language, oratory skills, good vocabulary, good deploying good vocabulary, that is going to make you a good leader. No. Of course, if you have, take a legend like Vajpayee, fantastic oratory skills, and people just wait for him to kind of speak. Okay, what is going to come now? What is the figurative speech that he's going to use? What is the word that he's going to experiment in the next sentence? All right, that's happened. So you can have all kinds of people. For example, Shashi Tharoor is another example. I'm kind of digressing it, but I'm just I'll end this with this example that language has a limited role, not the whole and soul to make a good leader. Shashi Tharoor is a fantastic speaker. You can't really have a better speaker than Shashi Tharoor. Whether it is Malayalam or English, right? Fantastic speaker, good debater and all. But he lost his ministership because he's not able to communicate properly. He lost his ministry because he made a comment on Air India or he made a comment somewhere else. Which means he could not communicate properly. So communication has nothing to do with the language skills in a sense. To become a leader, something else is required. So that kind of myth I wanted to break. So if somebody has basic language skills to communicate, please try to encourage them. They will certainly become a good leader. It's not going to stop them anyway. So that's one thing that I want probably remind you or keep it in your mind. Most of you anyway know. So the leadership is a direct function of 3 elements of interpersonal effectiveness. The first, and which is very, very important, is awareness. The second is ability. Third is commitment. I would like to deal with each idea little detail. Awareness is a state of consciousness. It's an ability to recognize yourself and others, events, situations in real time. A leader is a person who evaluates himself properly. If a leader who does not know himself is in a deep, deep trouble. He should know what are his strengths. He should know what are his weaknesses. He should know where does he stand on certain things. How does he look like? How does he sound like when he's talking to people? And he should be able to recognize others as well, these kind of qualities. And we should be able to recognize events. What is happening around him? What are the situations around him in which he is operating in real time? The leader is not somebody who will have a lot of time and think, and go back and think, oh, what happened yesterday? Let me remind it, what happened. Then take a call and then, let me do something else. No, it's not. It's leadership is always real time. It's a crisis manager. Crisis always happen in the real time, right? So the person who's aware of himself, others, events, situations around him in real time, he should always be aware of that. And he should, awareness is also kind of ability to assess the impact of actions on situations and others critically and self-reflective. He should be we should be always self-reflective. He should know what is happening around him. He should know what are the impact of actions on situations. How do I react? How do I see the situation? How do I assess them? So that comes from awareness. When you are strong about yourself, others, what's happening around you, then you understand. And also awareness is also a development process. That's a kind of you experience it, you communicate, and you also discover yourself. So when you are aware of yourself, when you are aware of other people, you also kind of communicate better, and you discover better, and you also get the ability to. The next one is ability. What kind of abilities does he or she have? Ability is the ability to learn, understand technical issues. Anything. If you are a corporate leader or academic leader or any leader, first of all, you should be able to understand the ability to understand the issues. If you don't have the ability to understand, it's very, very difficult, to take up the leadership position or to mentor anybody. You should understand the situation. You should understand the subject. Doesn't matter what subject. You need to sit on with that. If you got a leadership position, doesn't matter, right? It's not just about learning technical things and all. Of course, not every technical details you will get it right. For example, I'll just give an example. You may find it silly, or you can discard it. But if it makes sense, you please take it. Take for example, Sundar Pichai. Sundar Pichai is a Google CEO, and Google. What does Google do? Google mostly deals with information and software engineering and coding and all this stuff, right? What did Sundar Pichai study? Sundar Pichai studied materials engineering. Materials and metallurgy engineering has nothing to do with information technology. Software coding, software development, application development, Gmail, apps. So it's not just the ability to kind of to know the subject. If you know the subject and you are good at subject, then you become an expert, not a leader. To become a leader, you should have the ability to understand what's happening, overall picture. Of course, if you know the technical issues, that's fine. But the ability to lead, to influence, so that ability is required. Yeah. Please, whenever you join, please keep it in mute so that Yeah, ability to the next ability is to influence, the ability to understand technical issues, the ability to communicate, which is very, very important. Again, I would like to remind you that it's not just about whether you have a great language skills or not. You may have a very modest language skills, but still able to communicate. If your intention is right, if you are able to communicate with your modest skills, that's absolutely enough to perform your ability, and the ability to resolve conflicts, which is very important. When there are conflicts, how do you resolve them? How do you understand the problem, and how do you resolve it? What kind of position that you take, and the ability to solve problems and make decisions, not just about find temporary solutions, but also kind of give or take a decision. Whether it is good or bad, it doesn't matter. It only history will tell you, or the time will tell us whether that's a good decision or bad decision. But as a member of team, we influence others in a collaborative effort to find better ideas and solve problems. But while collaborating efforts, you take everybody's decision, you take everybody's opinion. But as a leader, you should have the ability to make the decision. You listen to everybody, but you should have the ability to take the decision. The third one is commitment. What kind of commitment does he or she have towards the issue? For leaders, the one thing that leads to a maturity is the full aware of recognition that one's decisions make difference. Commitment is always to recognize that my decisions are going to make a difference. Whether it is positive or negative, doesn't matter. The leader should not shy away from making decisions. The leader, the mentor should have the ability to recognize that I have the capacity to take a decision. Yes, we should never be scared of what is the consequence of the decision. See, the consequence of decision could be anything. It depends. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Certain small decisions, will investing in a particular firm is a cracking decision for somebody. It becomes, overnight, billionaires, and investing in some other company will probably, will go bankrupt. But decision is very, very important. In decision is not a quality of a leader or a mentor. You need to have the maturity or the ability or the commitment to take a decision, whether it is positive or negative. And we should also recognize that this decision is going to impact lives of others, because you are not an individual. Individual decisions only impact individuals, or it may impact the other person. It matters. That's also kind of leadership, right? The moment it impacts the other person, the family members, or the society, or the company, or the university, or any other settings, then you are in leadership position. Yes, you should be able to recognize that my decision is going to impact people. When it is going to impact people, I should be absolutely careful. Of course, those careful negotiations and what do I say, deliberations and thinking about it should happen. Once you want to solve a problem, you have decided, and you need to make a decision whether it have a negative impact or a positive impact. Is going to help others, is not going to help others, because you have assessed the impact, then you make a decision. So it doesn't matter whether it is a win-win situation or no-win situation or lose-and-lose situation. You must still make a hard decision. When you take a decision, then you are a leader. What happens with the decision is the next thing altogether. That's not in your hands. Then comes the question, what are the attributes of a leader? What are the qualities of a leader? The first and foremost quality of a leader is vision. He or she must have a guiding vision. Effective leaders know that what they want to do and have the strength of character to pursue their objective in the face of opposition and failures. If we get the failures, if we face the failures, we should have the courage to face it. As a mentor, you should always teach students failure is inevitable. Failure is a norm. Failure is not exception. Winning is exception. Failure is a norm. By default, it may be bigger failure, smaller failure, but failure is bound to come to everybody, including the mentor and the leader. Failure is something that we cannot escape. We can never ever escape. Hence, better be prepared to face it. The failure is something is part and parcel of life. So the leader should have the ability to recognize this aspect, like our karma theory, right? Karma is karma, right? You can't really change it. But however, you should have the ability to recognize that the decision that I make, the vision that I have, may have oppositions, may face failures, also will have the option of getting success. So the leader is all about recognizing this and executing his vision. He should always have a guiding vision. The effective leader always would establish achievable goals. He would know what can be achieved, what cannot be achieved. He can probably utter those unachievable goals as well, but a realistic goals should have always be there and should keep that as something that we should always try to achieve. The second very interesting one, very important one is passion. The leader as a person, if we want to become a leader, we should always be passionate for whatever work we do, whether we are it's about writing, teaching, or mentoring, or whatever. We should have the passion, and effective leaders always believe in doing things passionately. They have goals. They always are passionate about their goals. They love what they want to do. What they are doing. When you love what you are doing, what happens is that the kind of amount of time that you put in that, the kind of efforts that you put in that, something happens, you don't regret. You don't feel that, oh, come on, why did I do this? I lost a lot of my time. I lost a lot of my energies. Because you love it, because you have the passion towards it, you would think that this is an experience that I've gained. This is something that I have experienced it and got what I getting. It's okay, fine. I'll attempt it again. Once I get a failure, no problem. But the passion should not be evaporate. It should not evaporate. It always has to be live. One should have a very positive outlook on who they are, what they love, and what they do. Their passion for life is a guiding star for others to follow. Because once you are very optimistic, once you are passionate, once you are visibly passionate towards your goals, then the people who follow you always will be influenced positively. It's because leadership is always all about influencing people. So when you are giving a lot of hope, when you are visibly passionate towards people or towards your goals, then you radiate promise, you radiate hope, you radiate light, you radiate the positive energy amongst your people, your team, people, your the mentees. Absolutely, passion is something that we cannot compromise. The other one, which is also another third one, is also interesting, is integrity. Integrity is very, very important for a leader. I'm saying integrity, right? Of course, honesty and integrity both come together. Both come together when it comes to leader. I'm not really talking about what do I say? I'm not talking about not being a corrupt guy, or you have to be true to your financial discipline, or that comes to that is a different issue altogether, right? When it comes to it, it depends on the subject that you are dealing with. What we as a personality we should have is integrity, because we should know what we are, and effective leaders are always aware of their weaknesses. They're aware of their strengths. They can only make promises that they can follow through on, what they can achieve, what they can fulfill in others' lives. The integrity is something that is required for any good leader. And the honesty. The honesty, leaders should always convey an aura of honesty in both their professional and personal lives. Honesty will always give us, an extra edge. It always gives us, kind of, what do I say, aura towards your personality. People will always adore you because of your integrity and honesty. You may be sometimes, may not be honest, and may not be honest. But however, some instances you may become a leader. That's a different thing altogether. It depends on the situation, depends on the historical conditions, political conditions, cultural conditions, environment, and all. You may become, but integrity and honesty one must have, and you become ethically and morally also. You can establish yourself as a leader. And the fifth, very, very interesting and very important one is trust. Leadership is derived, is you can always assert your leadership skills by influencing others through trust. If you don't get the trust from the people that whom you follow, or the people who follow you, very, very difficult to establish yourself or anybody to a leader. Effective leaders earn the trust of their followers and act on behalf of their followers. Because a leader represents the masses. Leader represents their team. When the leaders speak, the team speaks. So the leader should earn their trust of their followers. They is not only influencing them positively, but they should earn their trust unconditionally. But the followers should give their trust blindly on the leader, so that the leader would act on behalf of their followers. Because leader at the end of the day is going to execute on behalf of his followers. He is the one who is going to speak behalf of his followers. So until unless there is a trust, the people are not going to believe him. If there is no trust, people are going to reject him, right? And then he's not going to become a good leader. So leadership is all about having a trust and a bond between the leader and the people who follow the leader. The other one important attribute of a leader is the curiosity, which is also it is an extra, the attribute that one must have. Leaders are always good learners. Mentors and leaders both are I'm using it interchangeably, because mentors will tend to have a specific task of mentoring a particular project. But leader is a generic term, a very abstract term, generic term, which is part and parcel of mentorship as well, right? You're going to, as part of mentorship, you're going to influence people. You're going to motivate people. You're going to influence people in a most positive direction. Whatever they become, whether they are, in the classroom or in the lab, or maybe outside the classroom in the campuses, or they want to go for higher education, the mentorship and is going to be very, very important. So the leadership, until you have that leadership skills, you can't really mentor people, right? So they always go in hand in hand. Hence, I'm not mentioning the mentorship every time that we speak about leadership, right? The curiosity. So when it comes to the attributes, curiosity is very important, because the leaders should be always learners. They should wonder about every aspect of their charge. They find out what they need to know in order to pursue their goals. So until unless you are curious about what is happening, and also see, whenever we listen to good leaders and all, whenever we think that certain prime ministers and chief ministers are good, or certain corporate leader is good, certain professor is good, one thing that we always listen is they are very good listeners also. So when you are listening means, you are very curious about what the other person is saying. That curiosity, that wondering, bewildering, and thinking about, oh, really, what's happening? Knowing something unknown, knowing unknown from others, the humility to know people from your followers. That curiosity should not be killed. That curiosity should be constantly maintained when it comes to leadership. If you want to pursue your goals, the curiosity is very, very important. Which is part and parcel of any profession, right? Risk is something that we always take, and effective leaders always take calculated risk. If you take risk for the sake of taking it, and if you are like just to show the leadership that I'm taking risk because to establish my leadership, that's a stupidity. You should know where we should kind of take the risk. It's always should be calculated. You should always have the ability to recognize whether by jumping the gun are we going to benefit or not. If you jump just like that, sometimes it backfires. So you should have the ability to recognize the situation and ability to calculate what are the options that we have, whether I should be able to take a risk or not. If I'm taking a risk, what kind of risk? Is it a calculated risk or a dangerous risk? If it is dangerous risk, then you have to make it to turn that into a calculated risk. So that, because the leader is taking decisions, but he's not alone. A lot of people are going to be impacted. So when you are going to take a decision that is going to impact people, one cannot take a dangerous risk. It always should be a calculated risk, because even if it doesn't work, even if it backfires, the damage would be minimum. So the risk, what kind of risk that you take, is very important trait of the leadership. You can't simply, you have to prefer calculated risk, because if a mistake is made, effective leader will learn from the mistake and use it as an opportunity to explore other avenues. Because you have that avenue to come out of the failure or from the mistake and make a different path altogether within no time. That kind of calculated risk always should be, taken with the leader. So that kind of, ability to take that kind of risk. The other attribute is dedication, which is again effective leader should be dedicated to his or her charge, and she has to work, tirelessly on behalf of those who are following. The leader gives himself or herself entirely to task when it is necessary. You should be dedicated to what you have, whatever task that you take up. The dedication is a must. And the other attributes, is, as I said, listening. Leaders always listen. These are most important attributes of all. Listening to people, listen to your followers, listen to people who oppose you, which is very, very important. People who oppose you, you should be able to listen. The moment you listen to your hostile colleague, that itself will bring the hostilities down by 50%. Because the hostile friend will think that, oh, Despite disagreeing with him, despite fighting with him, despite having differences with him, he's still listening to me. That itself is a very positive sign. That itself will give you, a lot of positive energy. That radiates a lot of positive energy. Hence, the person would always think that, oh, come on, he seems to be a good guy. Unnecessarily I have underestimated him or I misunderstood him. So listening, whether you follow it up or whether you agree or whether you take it up after listening, that's a different thing altogether. Listening is very, very important. We should be able to listen to the people so that they get a good feeling that somebody is listening to me. The next is charisma or charishma. This may be one attribute that is most difficult to cultivate. This is not something that one should have. All leaders are not charismatic leaders. Of course, they have some charisma. They may not have great voice. They may not have great personality. They may not be great looking. They may not have a great dress. They may not have a great what do I say expression and all. But certain charisma does not come with all this. Charisma is all about how do you convey your maturity. How do you convey your trust? How do you convey your credibility and respect to your followers? The compassion, sense of humor, love for humanity, these are things that actually give you charisma. Not good-looking shirts, good-looking trousers, good-looking spectacles, good-looking dress, fantastic language. That's not going to bring the charisma. Charisma is comes through compassion, trust, dedication, commitment, sense of humor, love for the followers. That is going to motivate people to excel. That is going to motivate people to believe in you. That is going to motivate people to to gravitate towards you, right? That's very, very important charisma that one. You will send a message or what? Yeah. So that's you wanted to bring a few attributes of leadership. Now there are. I would like to navigate you into a little different terrain. Precisely because based on my experience, always we tend to talk about leadership is also about how do you manage people, right? How do you as a outline in the beginning, it is not really about impressing people. We are not in the business of impressing people. It's about influencing people. Impressing and influence, huge difference. You need to influence in a positive direction. People should trust you. People should follow you. You are impressing means you are coming down and you are trying to beg them that you are. Please agree with my position. We agree with my idea. Impressing is fine. I'm not really disagreeing with the impressing part, but influencing is very, very important as part of leadership. But the question comes then: what does the management do? What kind of things that management people do? Is there a difference between leadership and management? Right? Is there a difference between leadership, mentoring versus management? Or management is also same thing? Managing a company is the same thing as leading the company? Or CEO is a leader or a manager? Tata is a manager or leader? Mahindra is a manager or leader? That's a very important question that always comes across to our minds. In what way we distinguish leadership from managerial skills or a manager? Manager is also very important. I'm not here to pull one and push one. No, absolutely. They have their own roles and they have their own effective roles. No doubt about it. And a manager can be a good leader. Absolutely. A manager can be a good leader and good leader can be a good manager. No doubt about it. However, there are a few distinguishable differences between leadership and management. A leader and manager. Because a leader is always a person who is followed by others, not necessarily the manager. The leader who always would influence people. A manager, on the other hand, a person, a position, a personality controlling or administering a business or a part of business. The manager is going to control, administer, instruct, leader, command respect, influence people. So there is a sense of voluntary, submission when it comes to leader, manager. There is a hierarchy in which you operate yourself. Manager and the people who work under the manager. Leader who follow the leader. For the leader, you have followers. For the manager, you have team members who listen to the manager or follow the manager. So a person regarded in terms of skill in household, financial, or other forms. That skill person is called a manager. Where the leadership, the ability to develop a vision that motivate others to move with a passion towards a common goal. Manager also can do it. But manager is more worried about the process, hierarchy, product process, manufacturing process, thought process. But the leader is above that. He developed a vision that would motivate people to achieve that vision. That would motivate people to follow the leader to achieve that vision or to be part of achieving that vision or achieve a common goal. Whereas the management, the ability to organize your resources, coordinate and execute the task necessary to reach a goal in timely and cost-effective manner. See, timely, cost-effective manner and to organize resources, coordinate the task. So there is a lot of process involved in the managing your team. Whereas leading your team, you may not have the same process because management has certain rules. Leadership does not have a rule. Leadership is a very subjective thing. Every person is a leader.
Sir, you are not audible. Excuse me. Sir, I think you are on mute.
Oh my God.
Now you are audible. It was for a few seconds only.
Okay. Thank you. I think somebody muted me. Yeah. So that's good, So that's a management, right? Somebody can mute me. That's a management because you are able to manage the process. You're organizing this Google Meet so that they can mute people. You can allow somebody to speak. You can allow somebody to speak. You can stop somebody to speak. You can allow somebody to participate in the discussion. You don't have to allow. Whereas a leader is above all this. He would, empower people, motivate people to organize themselves as a meeting, to talk openly. So that kind of visionary is something that I'm talking about. I'm absolutely not talking about leader versus manager. Both have their great roles. When it comes to management, when it comes to leadership, there are different traits. A leader can be a good manager, a manager can be a good leader. However, a manager who would always think about his resources, how does he or she organize his resources, coordinate his tasks to reach a particular goal in timely and cost-effective manner. Whereas the leader doesn't think of all this. His business is to motivate people to have a common goal, to develop a vision for the people, those who follow. And management also seeks a stability and predictability. Management never lacks unpredictable people, unpredictable associations, unpredictable companies. They want stability, they want order, whereas leadership seeks improvement through change. That's why leadership is very, very powerful because leadership would ask for change. If possible, they want to break the order to establish a new order because leadership goes beyond what is happening at that particular moment. They want to see, they're visionary, right? They want to envision the future. So if you want to envision the future and take your followers into the future, you always want to break certain norms of the society of that particular time. Then you are a leader. You are a leader because you fight for people. You have a visionary. I mean, most of the freedom fighters, they are visionary because they don't know what they are fighting for. You don't know what is going to happen. Say 2020 in 1947, they never knew, but they had the leadership skills to give the vision to the rest of the people. They believed it, and also leaders always do the right thing. Right thing in a sense, what they think is right. Leaders will always say that this is the right thing. What happened? Somebody is again unmuted. Yeah. So leader always do the right thing. Leader always do the thing that they think that is right. Whereas the manager do things right. Why does he do things right? Because there is a process laid out. For leadership, there is no process laid out. The leader has to find out its own path for his followers to lay out a path and motivate people that this is the right path. Let's go ahead. Let's take the risk and let's go ahead and take the path. That's why leader always do the right thing. The manager always do things in a right manner. And when it comes to leadership and management skills, both are sometimes interconnected, sometimes not. And for leadership, you need a different skill set altogether. For management, you need a different skill set altogether. They may overlap sometimes, but they are distinguishably different. For example, for leadership, you need a lot of soft skills. For management, you need hard skills. For leadership, you need communications as part of soft skills. When it says communication, you should be able to speak and communicate properly. You should be able to establish efficient communication system with your followers. Mind you, not just language, everything else, body language, the way you talk to them, the way you present yourself is very, very important when it comes to communication. Communication is not just about language. And the second thing is motivation, which is again very abstract. Leader always should be able to motivate his or her team. Until unless you motivate, the team is not going to perform and the leader is not going to achieve the goal. Whereas management, there is a later process. They are going to follow it, whether they are motivated or not. Whether they are motivated to write a code or not, they are going to write it because that's an achievable goal that they have already put it based on your skill set. The third, very again important aspect is stress management. How do you manage your stress? The leader stress as well as follower stress. How do you make them calm? How do you make sure that things don't go out of control? How do you manage the crisis when the followers are in dilemma? How do you manage? How do you make them work? How do you make them take a decision under your leadership? So that's all about stress management. There is always a stress because they tend to have more stress compared to the management skills because leader always operates in real time. The leaders will face bigger challenges than the manager because managers' risk are all well calculated. They are well expected. They know what kind of risk are going to come and face. So they're all well prepared. Whereas the leader will never understand the risk, the challenge that is going to happen the next moment. The leader should have that capacity to understand, the capability to understand the challenges, the failures, and have that ability to manage the stress and the conflicts. And the leader also should be a good team builder. Same case with manager also. They overlap, right? He should be very good team builder. He should be able to build his team in a proper fashion and should be able to coordinate with them because the followers are very important. The leader is nobody if he or she doesn't have good followers. If he or she is not able to influence, there's no point. Whereas the manager will have a team. Each member of a team is assigned a particular task and they will do it. And with minimum coordination, they should be able to survive as a team. Whereas the leader, there has to be a maximum coordination to achieve the goal. And the leader should also believe in change management. He should always believe in change. He should always have the capacity to understand the change. He should have the large-heartedness to understand what's happening on the ground. And many people fail as a leaders because we are not able to understand the change. We tend to think that the present generation, if you become a little old, like when we become professors, we tend to say that students have changed totally. That's very bad and all. When we are students, we tend to compare our student days to their student days. Absolutely no, right? We should be able to identify the change. If something is bad, something is good, you should be able to recognize. But one has to assess the situation objectively, not subjectively. A leader is a person who understands the time. He should not assess anything based on what he has experienced, what he is during his time, his student days, his professional life. No. He should be able to assess the situation right now. What is happening with our students? Why are they not able to concentrate? If they are not able to concentrate, what are the things that we can bring? No point, getting distressed about, see, our generation was good, our generation was sincere and all. No generation is sincere. Every generation is sincere in its own right. Every generation is naughty in their own right. Every generation is spoiled in their own right. Every generation is upright in their own right. No generation is progressive, no generation is regressive. Every generation is progressive, every generation is regressive in its own term. The people who right now will become very conservative after 30 years, will become conservative next 10 years. Our students are very progressive because we can't really understand there is the radicalness. So that's how a leader should always should find out, the change is inevitable. Change is something that we cannot control. So we need to understand the change and manage the change. Whereas the management skills, you should have hard skills like scheduling the meetings, scheduling the team meetings, staffing, how do you recruit a resource management, activity analysis, how do you control the project and all. So management is little different. Leadership is always all about soft skills. Leadership is always about very abstract things that you always. It's not something that you of course you inculcate them, you learn them, but there are no shortcuts to them. You need to continuously inculcate and go ahead and implement your ideas, then you become a leader. Whereas management, you probably have a degree, then you become a manager. Leader, there is no degree. Anybody can become a leader. Without illiterates can also become a good leaders. In fact, great leaders. Yeah. Now that I said illiterates also can become great leaders. They are great people who are not well educated, who are not highly educated, who brought radical changes in our lives. Right? We have one, what is this? Kamraj from Tamil Nadu. One of the I would say, I would not say the best, but one of the best chief ministers of independent history, in the independent history. The kind of policies that he is the one who brought this, midday meal scheme. He is the one who brought many welfare schemes to the masses. He is not educated. He is not Harvard graduate to understand things from economics and how do I change poverty levels, how do I remove the poverty in the masses. No, nothing like that. He had the common sense. He was a leader because he understood the people and he had the vision. So education will not give you the leadership. Education qualification will not make you a leader. Absolutely. Highly educated people make stupid mistakes, and there are many people who are not highly educated and still make great leaders. So education is not, that's another myth. Of course, education is important at this moment, but not to compare Kamraj every time. But that's an example, fantastic example that you don't have to be have a great degrees to become a leader. So that's a kind of, I wanted to bring that management aspect into the leadership and mentor and mentorship, mentees relationship also, right? And being a leader, if you want to go ahead and be a leader, one must assume certain things, certain qualities. What are the qualities that we are supposed to assume, or whatever the qualities that we are supposed to inculcate? The first and foremost is that everything that happens to you results in a situation that is not that is in your control. A leader should be a person who thinks that I am going to control the situation. The mentor is going to control the situation no matter what is going to happen. If he is not able to control, which means he does not control his followers, which means his ability to influence people is diminishing. Once the ability to influence diminishes, you cease to exist as a leader. Leader is a leader only when you are able to influence, which means in any situation you should be able to control your followers. And second is that the attitude that you convey is what you are judged on. What kind of attitude that you use to convey your ideas? Are you humble? Are you with a lot of humility? Or are you with the big, build up, big show off that I'm a very big guy, I'm a big leader, I'm going to, have a great brains that I'm going to influence everybody. That attitude is going to decide whether there are followers to follow or you are going to influence them or not. And the third one is that what you think and do in your private life is what you will reap in your public and corporate life. The leader is a good leader when you emulate what you want to emulate in public life, also in private life. Of course, you can always argue that private life is different and public life is different, but ideally you should emulate the same integrity, honesty, dedication, commitment in your private life also. So there is a positivity will radiate from personal life to public life, and that your followers will be proud of your public and both private life, so that you will be able to influence people a lot. And being a leader, you are what you think and believe. Your leadership position, your leadership is decided on what you think, how you think, and how you believe in things. Because that's going to ultimately decide your followers. Whether they're to get influenced or not, they should clearly know what you think and what you believe in. And if you never meet a challenge, then you will never find out what your worth is. So the leader is a leader only when he gets a challenge. Leader is a leader only when he faces a crisis. Leader is a leader only when he comes up with a crisis. Leader is a leader only he faces challenge and comes out of it. Failure, winning, that's a different thing altogether. How do you come out of the failure also is a very good lesson. People will adore you. People will worship you. People will get influenced based on the way in which you face the crisis. And what is the recipe of becoming a leader? All these things are not for us in a sense. Most of the things are very commonly known. These are things that we everyday practice, but sometimes we don't remember, sometimes we don't inculcate. So our responsibility is to inculcate these things to our students, our team members. Especially being a mentor, when you are mentoring the students, we should always remember and continuously channelize this energy and these ideas to the students. So what is the recipe of becoming a great leader? To take control of your life, to take control of your ideas, to take control of your situation. And you should always assume responsibility for everything that you have done. The moment you escape from your responsibility, you are a very bad leader. We should assume responsibility for what we are doing, for whom we are. We are what we are, and we should take the responsibility for that. We should be accountable to ourselves first and convey a positive and dynamic attitude in everything we do. We should always have that positive and dynamic attitude in whatever activity that we take up, and accept the blame. We should never ever blame others for their mistakes and our mistakes. We should always try to accept the blame, learn from our mistakes, as well as those of others. Take blame for everything that happens in your unit. Take that blame, everything that happens in your territory. However, give credit wherever it is due. So blame we must take as a leader. Credit should be distributed amongst the team, amongst the followers. That's where you come out as a large-hearted human being. That's how you show your humility, humbleness. Hence, we attract attention, we attract the authority, we gain authority over our followers. We should always be compassionate when we review our team members' progress, and we should be very objective in that. We should be able to judge our team members. We should have the capacity to recognize the strengths of our team. Hence, so that we can become a good leader or good leadership position, right? And we should always think of great thoughts, because we should never be narrow-minded. Small thinking is very, very bad for the leadership position. Small thinking, narrow-mindedness is going to shrink us as human beings. But when it comes to leadership, we should always be large-hearted, because large-hearted people are going to gain attention from many people. You are going to influence in a more positive way. If you are narrow-minded, we are certainly going to drive in a negative direction, right? And we should always turn disasters into opportunities. All these things are very, very basic stuff that you all know, but it's kind of my job is to kind of remind you once again, since we are talking about leadership, since we are talking about how leadership is going to change the lives of our students. So we should always have the what do I say, ability to run through every time the same points every time in our students' mind. We should always turn disasters into opportunities. How failures, we can turn them into success. How we should get into a positive and very positive with positive energies despite facing immense challenges. How do we turn every obstacle into a personal triumph, right? And how do we determine our real goals that strive to achieve them? How do we motivate our team to not to digress, not to go out of the way, and try to be within the track? And when you want to tell somebody something very important, we should always do it personally. And if you have something negative to say, we should never ever talk in front of everybody. When we want to criticize people, we should always do it personally. When we want to praise people, that should be done in a group. That should be done in front of everybody. When we want to praise, certainly we should praise in front of everybody. When we want to criticize, we should do it privately. So the person who gets criticized will not take it personally. He will understand what the criticism means. He will certainly understand what is the loophole that he has, what is the lacuna that he had. And he will appreciate the fact that he was not insulted, he was not criticized in front of everybody. So he is very happy to know his lacuna. He is happy to know his what does he lack. And when he's praised in front of everybody, everybody will know that what his strength is. So he will certainly be happy, and he will always respect us, so that you can influence them in a better way. And don't be afraid to get your hands dirty doing what you ask others to do. We should always take that challenge up, and we should take it up. And there's many things that we always try to follow to become a leader. So there are no definitive points that that only will make you a good leader. Absolutely, as I said, leadership is a very subjective thing. There's no one recipe to become a leader, but I'm just kind of refreshing with certain ideas and all. I would like to kind of bring few more ideas, on what makes effective leader. What makes a person effective leader? What I was before some time I was talking about how listening makes very, very important thing when it comes to leadership, right? So listening effectively is a very important trait of a leadership. And when you listen, you're not only listening, the other person get the feeling that they are given importance, they're given due importance. So they feel always very good that they are heard, right? And we should always encourage the teamwork and participation. As a leader, we should always have that large-heartedness to kind of to coordinate our teamwork and participate. We should always empower team members. We should give them power to take decisions, and then we should back them when they take decisions, so that your leadership is established thoroughly. We should be able to communicate effectively. If you don't communicate effectively, then you are doomed. The leadership is not going to be executed, right? communication is not about language. It should have a decent language. Emphasis long-term productivity, of course. We should always make sound and timely decisions. Make sure that we always make sure that we don't delay things. We don't take early decisions. We should always take timely decisions. Treat each person as an individual. We should always respect the people, what they are and how they are, and we should always protect our team. And leadership, the very important thing, as I started with, have a vision. Vision to drive the vision among the followers. We should have the courage and the commitment to drive through this particular idea that you have, the vision you have, right? So all these things are fine to kind of tell you that most of things are we know. There's not something very new, and there's nothing new that we can talk about. Every day, every night, every minute, we always learn things that makes us a good leader, that makes us a good human being. So my only attempt was to kind of refresh it and just have a relook at it. So that we can probably have a relook at it and take it to our own groups and students and mentees and all. So at the end of the day, the bottom line of the leadership and the mentorship is that you are in control of your environment. We are going to control our crisis, our success. We are responsible for what we make. So, we have to make sure that leadership always will make a setback into opportunity and success. We are entirely responsible for what we do things. So the leader is always a person who always takes things into his and her control and execute things. This is what I'm kind of roughly planned to kind of to talk about. As I said, they're very very basic ones. Probably kind of maybe I acted as a felicitator or kind of reminding those stuff. What is the recipe of good leadership, and what is the how, what do I say? What are the things that what are the traits that we tend to see in the leadership and leadership abilities? I'm sure most of the things that I have discussed are known to you, and some of the things that you have practiced also, I'm sure. But the only thing is that challenge is not about knowing things and all. Everybody knows. We are all teachers, including me. The challenge for us is that to take it forward, to take it to our students at the student level. Each one, how do we influence people? How do we influence our students in a positive way? How do we consistently influence, not in one batch or one person, two person? How do we manage the entire classroom or team? When we are mentoring, how do we manage the people? How do we keep motivating them, the motivation levels all the time high? How do we do it when the people are pessimistic, when the people are down? How do we make sure that what are the examples, what are the things that we take, and we make sure that people get back to their positive environment and get motivated all the time? That's its real challenge. That real challenge only can be executed by the teachers, right? That's our responsibility to make sure that they're always in the high mode of motivation levels and all, very positive and all. So that's it from me. I don't know, maybe did I live a little early? Probably, if you have anything to discuss, share something, probably we can do that.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a good session. There were so many misconceptions about leadership. I hope you have cleared all the doubts of everyone. But still, we are open for question and answers. If you have any questions, you may ask.
You can even type in the message box if you want to speak.
Sir, there are a number of types of leadership which is commonly known across. So which one would you suggest to be the appropriate one? So some people say situational, some people say transformational, somebody say laissez-faire. So there are n number of theories and n number of definitions to leaderships which has been stated across the globe. So which one would you say would be the apt for the coming generations? Typically, when I'm saying, I'm talking about millennials, because this is a time when there's a huge age gap. I see you falling into millennials, and with that, how do a millennial lead a crowd of people who are elder to them?
That's a very good question. In a sense, it's not a question; it's a challenge that you posed, right? First question, there are two parts of question. I see it, though you put it in one question. The first is, what kind of leadership that we always try to emulate. That's a huge problem. The problem is that we can't really emulate one kind of leadership, because the kind of situation that we are in, it's in a strange way, because we are in the age of globalization. And we are consuming everything in the world. The moment something happens in New York, somewhere in remote locations of Madhya Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, Kashmir is reflected right at the time because of Facebook, Twitter, and all. So the leadership is always situational leadership. How do we manage that particular crisis, or how do we take that opportunity into take it to a different level altogether? So I do not think that one recipe or one accepting one kind of leadership is not going to work. I'm not going to give you big examples, but simple example. I'll give you a simple example. What happened to Biden? Joe Biden, American president, a few months back, he was hailed as one of the best leadership skills, because he was talking about hope. He was talking about livelihood. He's talking about respect. With 3 months, he is seen as a person who dashed hopes of millions of Afghan people. I'm not criticizing. I'm not here to criticize. I'm just talking about how a person who motivated the entire American population to fight against Trump, and with his love, compassion, hope, positive attitude, this decision has caused a lot of grief, despair, distress among lakhs of Afghanistan people. And so that's a leadership. That kind of situation we are in. The leadership that we are going to face is that there's no one leadership. The leadership is, our leadership skills is going to impact our own immediate people. How are we going to manage our own group? That leads us to next question, that is millennial, which is problematic thing. Because why I say problematic is millennials not necessarily bad. The problem with millennials is they have too much knowledge, and they can get the kind of knowledge, and they're global children, right? And they're not citizens of India. They are citizens of the world. So they have access to the knowledge of the world. So when, as a leader, as a teacher, when we are imparting certain knowledge, they tend to have a lot of distractions. They tend to have a lot of knowledge. Also, they tend to teach us as a lot of knowledge. They tend to do that. So millennials always tend to tell us that we know better, because we are exposed to it. We have read it. And also that shortcut. If you Google it, you will get everything, right? So people tend to think that the gain knowledge without much effort. You don't have to go to library. You don't have to go to read a book. You just Google it. You will know. Right from a tablet, pill, or a missile, or a bomb, or a thermal power, everything you just Google it. You don't have to go to a mechanical engineer. You don't have to go to an English literature class. You don't have to go to a chemistry class to learn. You just Google it. You learn it. That's perceived as a knowledge. So our job is to kind of probably guide them that that's not the knowledge that we are talking about. Probably there is a process in which we take a longer route to learn our credentials. Not just based on the Google, right? So, but I agree that there is no recipe to manage the millennials. Millennials are tough guys, especially Google generation. So our strategies should be multi-layered. There can't be one layered strategy to deal with millennials. Millennials, we should certainly not confront them. That's something that is it's going to backfire, because my experience, you confront them, it's going to backfire. The only way is to negotiate with them and tell them that this is not the way it happens. Sometimes they are very good, sometimes they are correct, sometimes we are wrong. So the millennials always, we need to negotiate. Earlier, we never used to negotiate. We used to kind of, In a sense, I would not say the leaders always dominate, but they're always kind of give and take relationship. So that give and take relationship, it gains more momentum with millennials.
Right, sir. There's a fight. There's a fight between experience and knowledge, which is happening currently in most of the sectors. Not the education sector, but it is something like a wildfire across the industries.
Yeah.
And a major challenge I can see is when men is ruling, that's all fine. When women come to that part, then again this becomes this takes a gigantic role, wherein yes,
Absolutely. No, that's even a bigger. You see, that's a problem. When men have been ruling, there is an assumption that men can rule. Right? Then assumption. So that when assumption is broken, the leader should if a smart leader should be able to recognize that. A smart leader, he should know what is the change. He should recognize the change. When he is not able to recognize the change, he's going to lose it. He is going to lose his position as a leader. There is an example, there are at least one vice president in Google and one executive director in Facebook lost their jobs because they could not recognize this change. It is not about, a leader should be, elevating somebody. Here, nobody is there to elevate anybody. A leader is a person who recognizes the change. Okay, fine. He did not encourage somebody, LGBT or women earlier. Now they got an opportunity. At least the leader should be able to recognize that they are growing and they should have the, courage and commitment to allow that growth, not to hinder that. That's why they lost the positions because not only they kept not just they kept it to themselves, they wrote it in a mail. One of the vice president in the Google has made a comment on women leadership. He lost his job immediately. It's not about being politically correct and whether he rightfully lost job or not. For us, when we talk about leadership, yes, that's a different thing altogether. We should not talk about all this, but that's not the problem. The problem is the leader is not able to recognize the change. If you recognize the change, any change, today women, tomorrow something else will come up, right? People who did not have the whatever opportunity, power, they will certainly find their ways to come out. You cannot stop. Nobody will give the opportunity, but a leader should be able to recognize at least. Yeah, thank you. Sorry whether I made sense or not.
It did make sense. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Any other question?
Yeah, it's not that you have to ask question, but yeah, if you have any, please, because leadership is such a topic, it's very subjective.
Right, sir. I have a question.
Yeah, please,
When should we consider ourselves a good leader? When can we consider ourselves a good leader?
Very simple. What we have been discussing, there is no one definition that, we are a good leader or we are a bad leader. Because we tend to think that when decisions go wrong, we tend to say that we are a bad leaders. No. See, that's why I said Biden. I'm not judging Biden. I only gave you two examples. So we can't really say that Biden is a bad leader or a good leader because he was talking about hope and he won. He's a good leader and he lost in Afghan. He's a bad leader. No. But taking decisions, owning up our own decisions is something that makes us good leaders. And as long as you are influencing people in a positive direction and owning up your own decisions, not escape from your deeds and escape and blame somebody else. Blaming the certain army, like I gave you a Biden example. It's very easy, right? Talking about America and Afghanistan, not talking about us. So blaming the Afghan people for their own hardship, that's not going to be a very great leadership, right? You probably accept your mistake and take it up, then you become a good leader. But leader is somebody who always takes up his responsibility, give due credit to everybody and take the blame. That large-heartedness we should have. Then only we are good leaders.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for clearing this. Okay. So, sir, again, I would like to thank you. It was an honor to listen to you. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a really great experience to listen to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for having patience to listen to me. I am very happy. I don't know whether I made sense or not. If I don't make sense, please ignore. If I made sense, just take it that as it is. And thank you so much, Vandana, Hina, and all the participants. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Have a nice time and have a next,
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the insightful talk.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Have a nice, rest of the sessions, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, bye-bye. I'm going to leave it, here.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, bye.
Over to you, Vandana.
Yeah, thank you, Hina. Thank you for conducting the session nicely. Okay. Yes, so here we have done with the second session of day 3 of the workshop, and the next session is with with Miss Bandana Madam. You already have interacted with her, so we'll be leaving the meeting now, and we shall be meeting again at 4, right? So the link has already been shared. Please register your attendance, and after that you may leave. Right. Thank you.